This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your weekly Astrology and Tarot for July 6 to 12. To hear timestamps for your sign, pick this up at the Astrology and Tarot Show on Substack.com. Now, if you have Virgo factors in your birth chart, on July 9, Venus enters Virgo, and your sector of workload and well-being, a complicated relationship with your staff, employer, colleague, doctor, dentist, and anyone else tied to your health and job will unfold from July 9. Your tarot can be decoded at jessicaadams.com. Aries, the 9 of Cups. Taurus, the 2 of Pentacles. Gemini, the 2 of Wands. Cancer, the 4 of Pentacles. Leo, the World. Virgo, the 10 of Wands. Libra, the Empress. Scorpio, the Emperor. Sagittarius, the Ace of Wands. Capricorn, the 10 of Pentacles. Aquarius, the Ace of Wands. And Pisces, the Hermit. Aries, a slow, ongoing, quite dramatic shift in the dynamic of your friendship, which makes you feel as if you're handling almost atomic power between the pair of you. It's normal in 2026. You can now forget about the friend that you were trying to be and the social media game you might have been trying to play and get on with the business of finding out who you really are. That will require some digging, Aries, so do find the undiscovered parts of yourself which you can bring to your friendship. Let's zero in on Pluto in Aquarius in the 11th house. Well, you only get this cycle once every 248 years, and it transforms friendship. It does this partly because of the way the group is operating around the friend, but also because of the natural changes of time. Sometimes the friend himself or herself changes, and that, of course, leaves you to decide what you're going to do next. Above everything else, the biggest concern of this cycle is how much power you have and how much control you have within the friendship or as a result of the other person. Ultimately, the best way forward, as you now know after a year of this, is that you have to balance the power between you. It's rather like two countries after the Second World War deciding how they're going to handle the bond together. Whatever's at stake here, and it's likely to be almost at nuclear levels, you have to figure out a strategy, Aries, if you're going to keep the friendship the same or at least changing in the right direction. And this week shows you. The other thing that's coming up for you at the end of July is karma from 18 or 19 years before. In the final days of July, which might be in your calendar or your diary now with this friend, you will hit a situation which owes so much to what was happening almost 2 decades ago. Taurus. This Uranus in Gemini cycle, which you've only had since April, is dramatically changing the independence that you have in terms of money, property, business interests, and your assets and possessions. The changes happen after sudden turning points involving other people's stake, share, debt, or position. You can expect amazing breakthroughs too in 26, 27 and ongoing, the kind which give you financial breathing space and room to move. I'll focus more on Uranus in your second house, which always rules your money, your valuables, and any property, as opposed to anything that you share involving others. This is very much about Independence Days plural, and it's about your ability to swiftly adapt to the last thing that you expected. There is a kind of freedom in it, and even though what is happening around you is totally unpredictable or just not normal, at the same time, you would have to admit that it makes life more interesting, Taurus. Meanwhile, when we go to your birth chart, we find that you have a great deal of activity also in your second house, which is where your sun is. In fact, we now have, for the first time in many years, Chiron in Taurus in your second house. So you're getting it publicly and privately. What's happening here is some sort of lesson for you about how far to take things. The question is this okay or not okay? And that's going to linger longer. Gemini. A great deal of who you actually are and what you're all about appears to have been left to one side for the time that you were your old public self. If you want a new image in 2026, look inside yourself and get to know all of you, not just the bits that you were trying to work with for the time that various photographs, videos, or web mentions were in place. What does it mean to have Uranus moving through the first house? Well, ever since April, you've been introduced to the idea that things could be radically different, totally unknown with a capital U, but also a great deal more liberating and exciting. In fact, there may be more than one story going on here. It may be your job title, for example, just as well that you have now left doors open, Gemini. Beyond that, it may also be an honorary role, letters after your name, or just the reflection that you're seeing in the mirror, what you're doing with your personal physical appearance. All bets are off really on this cycle, and it can be exciting to see yourself moving in a direction that you had never anticipated before. What's going on here now between 27, 28 is for you a revolution in terms of the person that people thought you were and the labels that you used to stick on yourself as well as accept from them too. Cancer. Other people's involvement in your money, any real estate and business interests can make you powerful now. If you have nuclear levels of willpower, you have to ask if you can handle that, if you know how to manage it, if your radar is good enough to detect potential control before it can even happen, then you are certainly aligned with your stars at the moment. It's a good time to be a realist about what you're now handling with the money or the property. Jupiter is in Leo for the first time in 12 years. Meanwhile, at the other end of your chart, which rules the other kind of finance, Pluto is at Aquarius. That can only happen every 248 years. So put that together and that's rare. Cancer, what does it mean to have Jupiter in Leo in your second house and Pluto in Aquarius in your eighth house? Well, first of all, there are opportunities and solutions here which just were not there even last week. From June 30, doors have begun opening and big answers are now starting to roll in with what looks like a sign-off decision by August. There is also karma here, and that will take you back 18 or 19 years in time, and it begins to show up at the final stretch of July as July turns into August. This is the movement of the North Node and South Node also through exactly the same places in your horoscope, the second house and the eighth house. And because the nodes move backwards in time, you're also being taken backwards through a revolving door. Ultimately, if you want empowerment, you get it through willpower. If you want control, you get it through self-control. And if you want more money, saved or made, you simply have to go through all the options as they are presented to you with one this week. Leo, Saturn, Neptune, and sometimes Chiron in your ninth house of foreigners and foreign countries covers every situation, place and person which expands your horizons, be it geographical or intellectual. This can be about foreign people at home, you exporting, travelling, or even moving. It may be a nurse from Nepal or a trip to New Zealand, a deal with an American, or a way to export to Europe. What does it mean to have Saturn and Neptune both in the ninth house? Well, it's a combination of knowing your limits because there is a waiting game involved, Leo, and a big test of your patience. But it's also about understanding that you deserve an escape as much as the next person. In fact, a great escape is indicated abroad or with foreigners here between now and 2027. You have already had some experience with this as these two planets have been circling your ninth house this year. In fact, there may be a real departure from reality. Entering into this space is something that you can do with your eyes wide open and definitely knowing where the limits are, as Saturn, coming from the other side of the story, is telling you that there is no fast or easy on this transit with these people or with this place. It will be a test of your patience. Virgo, your exploration of what and who you believe in at work with your unpaid work or academia will empower you this week. In fact, you may find yourself at the peak of your influence and the height of your power just by serving, just by doing your duty. Enjoy the impact that you're making, Virgo. Throughout this cycle, there will be times when you have never felt a greater sense of control in terms of the reaction that you are getting. So what does it mean to have Pluto in Aquarius in the 6th house? Well, ironically, you find your power, your influence, and your clout by putting other people first, and sometimes animals on this transit. It's about doing your duty, sticking to routine, perfecting the details, and believing in method and order. And always understanding that you are serving, even if you are a CEO. Putting that into practice this week is about understanding the principle, and the principle is about the long game. There is nothing here that says this is about the next few months, Virgo. It's actually about the next few years. If you talk to a Leo, you'll get insights into the way that this cycle operated for them. They found their power too by being of service. Libra. Your relationship with the world of babies, infants, children, teenagers, or younger adults will trigger a journey of deep soul searching now and result in dramatic changes on your path. A complete change is possible, so is a new place in the family, for example, or as a partner, which gives you power. This Pluto in Aquarius cycle will give you some extremely intense times when you're forced to accept how powerful or perhaps how disempowered you have become in the game that you have been playing this year. What does it mean to have Pluto in the 5th house? Well, in a way, it's understanding courtship, and it's also understanding the royal bedchamber. It's certainly understanding heirs, spares, and pretenders to the throne. And this analogy comes from Leo, the natural ruler of the 5th, which is the sign of the king and also the prince. So now you are in a different space with relationships, partnerships, and anybody coming after you, the younger generation. This is still quite new and it does take time to adjust to. But the bottom line with Pluto is that when you share the power and you share the control, you become empowered. It's only when you let things go too extremely the other way, on your side, theirs, his or hers, that you end up with concerns. Scorpio. It looks as though it's time to forget about who you were professionally or academically, or how you were playing out your life, even working without pay. It has gone, so let it go for good. You have a bigger game to play with Jupiter in Leo for the first time in 12 years, and you are off and running with opportunities and solutions. You have a different game to play with your workload or your well-being, also with Aries cycles this year. You may begin to see that sticking to your old means your best qualities will never be used. But what does it mean to have Jupiter in Leo in your 10th house? Well, Jupiter is an ancient symbol of best and greatest. People and organisations who are a little like this are starting to show up or show up again with more importance. You are also being told that by August, you could be in a much bigger position. You could take up more space on the stage of life, even if you did not feel like that previously. Some of what is going to happen this year and next year, professionally, academically, or with your unpaid work, owes a lot to what you planted 12 years ago. So the acorns that you put into your life about 12 years ago are now starting to become proper oak trees. And a mighty oak is a very precious thing. Sagittarius. During this week, you'll find out who you are by allowing yourself to leave certain sibling, neighbour, or cousin involvements behind, or leaving old patterns with them behind and doing things differently. What follows could leave you in a very new space indeed. But it is only when you face yourself as you actually are, without those people or without that particular game, that you begin to glimpse your new self. Sagittarius, what does it mean to have Pluto in Aquarius in your 3rd house? Well, for a start, it's slow transformation. Your brother, your sister, your neighbour or your cousin will change, or the relationship that you have with them will go through a slow series of changes. Pluto takes its time. It takes about 248 years to revolve around the zodiac. So, what is happening here is a little bit like the Earth crust changing, and you have to accept that this is unfolding at the rate it should. This does give you time to adapt and adjust, and one of the things that you're learning this year, and also as a result of what happened last year, is that together you are more empowered by sharing the power than you are by letting this turn into a battle over control. Whenever you get Pluto, you get questions about top dog and bottom dog, and also the pack, the pecking order in the pack. Therefore, you are now in a position to take what you know and to try and spin this differently so that you and he or you and she can share the control together. Capricorn. Each time that you leave old financial or real estate situations behind, or they leave you behind, you are given a rare chance to dig up all those bits and pieces of your life budget that you need most so that you can finally bring all of you to the calculations. This cycle does not only concern you with the wider issue of control, it's about the relationships as well as the money or the property. What does it mean to have Pluto in your second house and Jupiter in your eighth house at the same time? Well, you know very well that this has been about a lot more power in the game since last year. But what is new is the opportunity or the solution. This is about 2 or 3-way arrangements, a marriage and a mortgage, for example, or a will or an inheritance which names family members. There are other examples of this, but whatever the paperwork tells you, or the numbers, you're being told that between now and August, there is an open door that was never there before. If you were being a proper Capricorn and thinking long-term 12 years ago, you may have planted acorns which are now ready to become oak trees. So, for example, you might have put down your first deposit on an apartment or a house, which is now showing real escalation in value. Whatever you were doing about 12 years ago, it is coming back to you for all the right reasons. But there's one last thing to come, and that's in the last week of July. Karma from 18 or 19 years ago comes back, and if you are owed from that time, you will be paid out. Aquarius. One specific person or network could be your key to a powerful relaunch by 2027. This week plays a part. You may experience this new sense of empowerment by yourself or with a personal trainer or a publicist, for example, but either way, the potential is huge. Pluto in Aquarius says that if you realise the impact you are having on others is all about the soundbite or the social media, you will gain. What does it mean to have Pluto in Aquarius in your first house? Well, for a start, if you have anything in Aries in your birth chart, it's a double whammy. Personally, privately, as well as publicly, this year is all about the external. Your profile, your reputation, your title, your name, how you present physically, and how you front up on the front line of any situation. Being upfront is what this is all about. If you do also have Aries factors, even if you don't or you just don't know, what's going on at the moment is a slow transformation of the way that you look and you appear. It may be because you are running marathons, for example, or because you are altering the way that you eat. Maybe you've been looking at how you present online or behind a microphone or a podium. Whatever it is, you're being told that you will only get what you want by making sure that you control everything yourself. And that means understanding that you may be pushing back against people or situations which occasionally have made you feel quite powerless. Whatever it is or whatever they have been up to, you now know very well that if you want to win this and turn things around your way with your profile, you have to use good old-fashioned willpower. Pisces. Well, astrologers give up when they see Pluto passing through your 12th house in a sign of Aquarius. Nobody knows what on earth you're up to. Is it therapy, religion, tarot? This zone of your horoscope is off limits to everybody, even your favourite psychic. so there is no point in trying to categorize it. However, you will be submerging large chunks of yourself and your life again this week, to the point where the neighbours begin to wonder where you are. What does it mean to have Pluto in Aquarius in the 12th house? Well, for a start, it's about the transformation of your soul, your spirit, your psychology, or your psyche. Some people convert to religion on this transit. That's not unusual. It's also common to alter the way that you deal with your inner life and inner self, whether you have been seeing a therapist, a counsellor, a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and so on. In other cases, there is a different story going on, Pisces, and it is very much about your intuition and your sixth sense. You are well known in astrology for being able to merge psychically with other people. In fact, you have the rare ability to stretch yourself across time and space. There are no boundaries for you there. This may also be going on, and you may find, for example, that your dreams are becoming powerfully predictive, or that you are developing a clairvoyance that was not there before. However you play it, the 12th house is solitary. It's solo. You have to be alone to find the power. And the other flip side of this is that you are feeling differently, perhaps, about any situation or person which is disempowering you privately and on the inside. Pisces, this area of life requires quite a lot of reading and quite a lot of research, and maybe talking to somebody with expertise. By rights, it's normally not discussed at all. So this is not a bad week to go on finding out about it. I'll go into Chiron in Taurus to end the podcast because it's very new, and also because I have been receiving a lot of questions about this cycle on my website. So Chiron is a funny one. You will see it described as a wounded healer, which it certainly is not. Yes, Chiron the centaur is associated with some healing, but in general, he is as much associated with music, archery, hunting, and also the art of war. What is true to say about this strange body in the horoscope is that it is an education. If you have anything in Taurus in your chart, then for at least some of the time, you are going to be concerned with stretching the financial or real estate limits. Over the next few years, this may involve you with cryptocurrency, local currency. So, for example, a challenge to the normal national currency. It may involve you with universal credit, tax reform, bartering, exchange, and all sorts of experiments. In fact, you're going to see this globally as well. Chiron in Taurus, now off and running, will go backwards and forwards, but from the middle of next year, 2027, it will be here to stay. And this means that all bets are off with all aspects of money and real estate, whether it's gambling or whether it's capitalizing on what the banks are offering you with their new angles. Chiron is always about punk rock experiments. He was found in 1977 when punk rock broke. And in fact, 2,000 years ago, he was basically a guitar teacher. So if you run with the idea that you can get away with what they say you should not get away with, cannot get away with, if you believe in having the audacity to attempt something that people are confronted by, then really you're on track with Chiron. Chiron is a centaur. He was a wise centaur, not just wild. He also knew how to teach heroes like Achilles. And usually on this cycle, within a few weeks of it beginning, you find yourself being taught, guided, mentored, or tutored. Even if the person is not wearing that label, this individual will be showing you that it is possible to stretch the boundaries and the parameters of what you used to think was regular, normal, or just the way things were. Because Taurus in the zodiac is the bull, it is associated with gold bullion and also the bull share market. It is very much associated with the bull on Wall Street. So what you're going to be seeing now through to Christmas is a wild new attempt to profoundly alter the rules of the game that we could call a bit punk rock in approach. People like this are now hovering, so do listen to what they've got to say. But as always with Chiron, remember that nothing is foolproof And even though usually everything changes once Chiron has done his work, it is also possible to see a few false moves or failures along the way before Chiron finally gets what he wants. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.